Hi besties, welcome to my channel. There are some opinions that I've been thinking of lately, and I think it's time for me to speak up and share them with you guys. These are kinda straightforward and some of them might be a little controversial, but obviously they're just my opinions and you don't have to agree with them. Let me know what you think in the comments, and now let's start. If certain idols weren't that pretty, everyone would instantly throw them under the bus during scandals. I've lost count of the amount of people I've heard saying things like, "I don't care even if they're guilty because we all make mistakes when we are young and bullying is not that big of a deal." I remember when Cheon was accused of bullying her group mate Mina, so many people were attacking her visuals and calling her a monster. A similar thing happened when the Woojin scandal broke out and so many stays wanted him out of Stray Kids and were insulting him for his visuals. Not to mention nobody has apologized to him after it was revealed he wasn't guilty. But for example, when former idol Cheon was rumored to be a bully, so many people didn't care at all because she's pretty and hot. Same thing for the Irene scandal. Many people excusing her rude behavior just because it's Irene we're talking about. A literal living goddess. With that, I'm not saying that Irene is a bad person or that Cheon was definitely guilty or anything like that. But it's just funny how people almost instantly forgot about the situation when it came to them but hated the shit out other idols by also coming for their visuals. Now the same thing is kinda happening with Lee Seraphim's Garam. I know so many people turned their backs on her, but she still has many supporters who clearly said they don't care even if she's guilty, and I 100% believe she would have way less people supporting her if she wasn't that pretty. With that, I'm not saying I know for a fact she's guilty because there are many things that need to be clarified before jumping to conclusions, but it's shocking to me how some stans don't seem to care she might really be a bad person. There's a difference between showing concern for idols' health and being inappropriate. Trust me, I get it. We can all get worried if an idol looks visibly not okay, maybe because they lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. But there's a very thin line between showing your concern and being inappropriate, and K-pop stans cross this line most of the time, especially when it comes to skinny shaming idols. Some of you just straight up say idols look scary, like skeletons, or say shit like, "Just eat something or you won't even be able to walk." Like, are you serious? And I just find it so funny how fat shaming someone is considered very wrong, but somehow nobody has a problem when it comes to skinny shaming. Both skinny and fat shaming are wrong and disgusting, but how come so many people don't seem to find a problem when it comes to criticizing skinny idols? Not to mention you know nothing about idols. Some of them are just naturally skinny, others have eating disorders, and all of your comments only make things worse. I definitely get why stans would get concerned, but there's a line we shouldn't cross, especially because discussing these things online is just fucking useless and it's not like it's gonna change anything. The way Hybe is moving with the Garam situation is detestable. Hybe is really giving me the impression of not actually giving a fuck about Garam's potential bad actions. It's like they only care about saving face even if it means straight up lying to the fans. First of all, they either did no background check on her before debuting her, or they did, but straight up ignored it all. There's no way they wouldn't have known about what her whole school was saying. Not to mention the school reports. When companies do a background research about their trainees, school is literally the first and most obvious place to look at. If she had school reports documenting the whole thing and if tons of her classmates were talking about these things, then Hybe would have surely known something was going on. So this tells me they either did no background check at all or they simply didn't give a fuck about what they found. Then let's talk about how they tried to portray Garam as the one and only victim in their first ever statement. They explained absolutely nothing, literally nothing whatsoever, and just said she was the victim, straight up lying to everyone. Hybe is also so annoying for keeping the silence when they should be keeping the fans updated, and they're also so detestable for saying they don't really plan on kicking Garam out of the group. Excuse me, but if she was guilty and you just refuse to kick her out just to save face, then that's such an awful move. Then again, we still don't know the situation clearly, but what's certain is that Hybe is fucking things up because this is literally not the way you deal with this kind of situation. Sometimes it's like they're pretending nothing is going on and it pisses me off. Not to mention how I'm basically sure that they did no background check on their artists whatsoever, even if they said they did. You have every right to consider a group's achievements as your own. Okay, hear me out. I've heard so many people saying stans should stop treating their faves' achievements as their own, but this doesn't really make sense to me. Most achievements that a group can get are because of the fans. If they sell a lot, it's because stans buy a lot of albums. If they have many views, it's because of the fans streaming, and if they win on music shows, it's because of fans voting, etc. So in a certain sense, a group's achievements are also the fandom's achievements. I think everyone is allowed to consider themselves as a contribution to their group's success. Everyone is allowed to consider their faves' achievements as their own achievements, at least in part. And it's extremely hypocritical for some stans saying you shouldn't treat your group's achievements as your own when the fandom is part of the reason the group is even getting certain achievements. Of course, this doesn't give you the right to brag and rub everything in people's faces and being a cocky asshole. But I just think that a big chunk of the achievements artists get is because of the fans, so it's not a crime if you want to consider your faves' achievements as your own as well. WM threw Cheon under the bus by sending her to Street Woman Fighter. With Mnet announcing the male version of Street Woman Fighter, I couldn't help but looking back at the first season, and I have to say that seeing Cheon there was just one of the most pitiful things I've seen. It was really awful seeing her losing her confidence episode after episode. That show managed to bring her down, and it did her way more harm than good. She gained absolutely nothing from it, considering she basically never appeared in any post-show content unlike the other members of every other crew. including her own. She was totally psychologically unprepared to be in that environment, and the show managed to make her questioning herself and her talents. I know that WM couldn't have possibly known what was gonna happen, and maybe they actually thought it could be a good opportunity for her, but the way I see it is that the company just had zero plans for her and they just tossed her into that show just to make her do something because they couldn't be bothered to care about her. I'm still wondering what the fuck is gonna happen to her. Anyway, I just hope she never forgets how good of a dancer she is, even if her appearance in Street Woman Fighter was really tough for her and it discouraged her a lot. LGBT idols exist and they're not a fetish of yours. It's so crazy how some of you forget LGBT people really exist and they're not your fetish or your ships to write a fan fiction about. As much as 99% of ships with idols from the same groups are just friendships, there are definitely LGBT idols that maybe do actually have a crush on one of their members, and what pisses me off is that so many stans who fetishize same-sex couples would actually be against the idea of their faves actually being LGBT and genuinely liking someone they're in a group with. On the other hand, some other stans will be very happy to know that their faves might like each other but would just treat it as another one of their fantasies for their own enjoyment, which sucks just as much. You are totally allowed to be thinking some of your ships are real and the idols might like each other, but please don't be fucking weird online where they can see everything. And if they were really just friends, it would be just so awkward. While if they really had feelings for each other, you would just make everything 10 times harder for them. People don't actually realize how shocking Hybe's success is. Okay, I'm sorry I always end up talking about Hybe in my videos, but bear with me. They're literally my ults. But anyway, you cannot tell me you were expecting them to be this successful when they were announced. Of course, they are from a high-level company like Starship, so it's not like I was expecting them to be Nugu. Not to mention they have 2 former IZ*ONE members. But then again, no other post-produced group has ever accomplished what Hybe has accomplished. I've managed to gain an almost never-seen-before success for a 4th-gen group or for a mid-tier company. I could list all of their achievements, but it would take too long. When it comes to wins, views, international and domestic charts, album sales, they are actually insane. I still can't really believe this is real, because if anything I would have thought the next big group was gonna come from one of the big 4 companies. But I haven't seen any rookie group having this amount of success lately. I remember waiting for Starship to debut their new girl group and thinking that maybe it might have taken a while for them to establish themselves. I remember thinking, maybe they won't be the biggest new sensation, but they'll grow steadily with a loyal fanbase. But look at how things turned out to be. It really took them nothing to capture the general public and to reach the amount of success they did, and I think it's just so unreal, honestly. Okay, so these were my straightforward opinions that I really wanted to talk about. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and give this video a like if you enjoyed. See you guys in the next video. Bye.